I believe there are a lot of things that we've learned against Manchester United, especially with our players. Now, don't get me wrong, it was a poor performance all around, but there were things that we can take and improve onto our next game and hopefully throughout the rest of the season. And one of those things that I wanted to talk about was how Viktor Gyökeres played against Manchester United. Now, don't get me wrong, I didn't think he had a good game. I thought there was things that he could have improved on or could have done a bit better, and maybe he needed a bit more confidence in certain areas. But I think with Gyökeres coming into this league, maybe we might need to adjust our expectations a little bit, because looking at that game against Manchester United, it's quite clear that it's going to take a bit of time for Gyökeres to adapt. Hopefully he adapts as quickly as possible. However, we need to try and be as realistic as possible as well. Now, in terms of reading the defenders, especially throughout the Premier League, we've seen how players that were world class in other leagues such as Koulibaly come into the Premier League and find it very difficult. So he needs to anticipate with Viktor Gyökeres how he's going to do his runs, because where he struggles to find space, he needs to try and maybe drop a little bit deeper, need to collect the ball, or try and change his runs a little bit in order to find a way. Now, don't get me wrong, in terms of his physical duels, Gyökeres definitely looked physical. I mean, did you see the way he dashed De Ligt? I mean, that was quite remarkable, to be honest with you. And I'm quite happy to see him do that, because that sends a message to the defenders in the league. However, maybe he needs to find a way on how the Premier League defenders use their bodies and how they win aerial duels. And with Gyökeres, yes, heading is not his strong suit, but he still needs to find a way to beat them in that area and how to protect the ball better under pressure. Now, in terms of the speed in the Premier League, it's quite fast. It's probably the fastest in the world. And in Portugal, you might have had that extra time on the ball, but in the Premier League, he doesn't have that. So with Gyökeres, he really needs to understand and really learn how to think quicker on the football field in the Premier League, on what he needs to do, whether he needs to dribble quicker, pass quicker, shoot quicker. He needs to do everything at a very faster rate. And with the Premier League, because it's so fast, people get closed down very easily. So he'll need to improve his runs, he will need to improve his one-touch play, and he needs to look at how other fellow Premier League strikers, whether it's Haaland or Isak or Watkins, how they manage against similar defenses. And look, in terms of his first game, maybe it could be a humbling experience, maybe he just needs to adjust, but I think with games being tough at the beginning, it's a good learning curve, and it allows Gyökeres to learn as much as possible to do even better in the following games moving forward. And especially with his fitness and recovery, like with the faster transitions that's going on and the more defensive tracking, improving his stamina and recovery is something that will help him throughout the season, especially with Arteta's system, with a system that relies on every player doing a part, both offensively and defensively. Now look, he has had a quiet debut. He had about 4 passes that were great out of 5. He's had 3 duels while losing 10, and even other managers such as Alan Pardew said that it wasn't that great. And I think some of the problems that came from this match was the service. He wasn't receiving as much service that maybe people were expecting. I thought he had chances, but possibly there was a case that he wasn't getting enough clear-cut chances per se. In terms of the pace and the defenders, they've exposed certain parts of Gyökeres' game, and maybe it's just due to match sharpness. Like, yes, against Atletico Bilbao, he looked quite good, but that's just one pre-season. It's going to take time for Arsenal and Gyökeres to work together and improve and learn more about their system. And I think it's just about getting used to the tempo, doing better in hold-up play, working on his match fitness, and just really getting through to tactics. So overall, I think with Gyökeres, if we were to do a timeline, I think the best case is if he takes around 0 to 3 months to just settle in and help learn as much as possible. However, if it might take a bit longer than that, maybe 3 to 6 months, it might take until say January, February for him to fully understand everything. Don't get me wrong, some players it just takes time. Even with someone like Kai Havertz, it took him over 6 months until over halfway through the season when he first joined the club for him to fully understand his role in the team. And those first 6 months were quite tough, essentially him playing in the A and then going around the team and eventually being up front and scoring goals in that 23-24 season where he looked a lot more comfortable. And you never know, maybe that could be a similar phase for Viktor Gyökeres. Now, a lot of people are saying with Viktor Gyökeres, he's a guy that's here to win now and he needs to make an immediate impact, and I get that, I want that too. However, this is something that we need to understand more with Viktor Gyökeres. Coming from a league like Portugal and coming to the Premier League, yes, he played in England before, but that was the Championship. It might take a bit more time just for him to get used to it, but maybe within 0 to 3 or 0 to 6 months, once he gets used to the Premier League, I think then we can expect our 20, 25, 30 goal striker really firing. And I hope he does. I really hope he does, and I believe that he can do, but it's just a case of him, how quick he can adjust to Premier League, and hopefully he will, and England and Arsenal and so on and so forth. Now, don't get me wrong, if you were to compare him against other Arsenal strikers, for Olivier Giroud, first 10 games he looked looked very sluggish, and then by Christmas he found his rhythm, and then in his first full season at Arsenal he scored 17 goals in all competitions. Obviously Gyökeres is a better player. With Lacazette he had an immediate impact. First 3 months was great, but then at the end of the first season he became very inconsistent because people sussed him out, and even he scored 17 goals in all competitions. With Aubameyang, instant, he was great. 10 goals, 13 league games, half a season, fantastic. Need I say anymore? He was probably one of the most elite strikers Arsenal have had over the last decade. And with Gabriel Jesus, because he was already in the Premier League, first 3 months to 6 months he was great, but then that injury, and we all know what happened there. So overall with Gyökeres, you never know. It could take quite a bit of time for him, maybe a couple of months, but I just wanted to compare him to the other Arsenal strikers just so people can have a better understanding on what's going on, especially with Gyökeres. Now hopefully in this season he scores over 20 goals in all competitions, 25 goals in all competitions. Hopefully 15 to 20 goals in the Premier League would be great, but you never know, he can score a lot more, and that's just going to be down to him and his confidence, and confidence is key. Confidence is very key. Anyhow, that's the end of this video. Please like and subscribe. Come on, Viktor Gyökeres, time to you to push on. Anyhow, please like and subscribe, and hope to see you all soon. Bye.